Welcome to day 14 of 30 days of Marvel Rivals education. Today, we are focusing on something that separates the smart players from stat chasers, and that is efficiency over ego. So you don't really have to be flashy to carry, you just kind of have to be efficient. So those people that are making like all those insane like TikTok plays, that's not what we're talking about here. Like, yeah, that's cool and like that works for some people, but that doesn't work for anybody, for everybody. And honestly, that doesn't work for most people. So this is going to be the kind of guide that I think works for most of the player base, to be honest, myself included, kind of. So basically, what we're talking about today is, what does efficiency mean in a match? It's basically getting value out of every moment, cooldown, and decision. So it's like not just looking at that elimination feed and being like, oh, look, this person's on the elimination feed like 20,000 times. No. This is about all the other decisions that you make that lead up to people getting those eliminations. So basically playing for impact, not really highlight clips or really the elimination feed, because it's just so many things that you can do outside of that to help yourself and help your team, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. So basically being in the right place and at the right time with the right cooldowns as well, that is what you want, because you can have cooldowns that can either get eliminations, save your team from being eliminated, or any other situations, healing your allies, stuff like that. There are so many endless possibilities of things to do. You just have to be in the right place for that. So basically, how we're going to be talking about the antithesis of this is, how does ego show up in your gameplay? It's stuff like chasing 1v1s while your team is just like dying on point. Like, I guess we've all seen those Spider-Man duels where they're all just like having those anime battles like 40 feet in the air, swinging across everywhere, halfway across the map. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. Like, it's awesome. Like it looks good on stream and it looks good on like TikTok and those YouTube shorts and all that stuff, but is it practical? Is it the kind of thing where most of us are going to be doing that? Like, no. Like at the end of the day, those are 2 players in the match and there's 10 other players that are just fighting on the other side of the match. So I'm not really talking about those like ego duels and those like Spider-Man duels and stuff like that. I'm talking about stuff to just be like, that kind of stuff is kind of unnecessary. Popping ult solo as well, just to get like that clip as well, because we've all seen those videos where it's just like, this would be really funny if I use my ultimate here, it'd be extremely overkill. Like, we're not talking about that. That's kind of like one of those things where I feel like ego takes over and it's just like, well, I can get a cool clip on this and I can really make views on all these different platforms because of it. So we're not really talking about that as well, because I feel like you can use that ultimate for actually a better use in the future, you know? Also, just flanking just to say like you carried, like getting like 1 or 2 eliminations and then dying alone is like, what if the enemy team gets back first and then they push they push on the point, they take the point because they got back first, you were still running back from spawn because of the longer walk, stuff like that. Or a big thing about it is as well is holding your cooldowns or even your ultimate because you want to wait for like the perfect moment and losing the fight as a result. I am a Moon Knight main, you guys know this at this point, and I try to play with Groot as often as I can because Groot Moon Knight combo is extremely strong. If you have both of those ults at the same time and you line them up, they are team wiping. But the amount of times that I have seen a Groot wait for their ultimate to be like, well, I want all 6 to be clumped up. You don't need all 6 to win a fight, more or less. You need 1 or 2 people, 1 or 2 key targets. If you get one of their healers, or if you get both of those healers, then easy. Like, that's worth it. Like, I'd rather take a 2-person ult where the group gets both of the supports instead of like waiting for the perfect opportunity to get a 6-person ultimate and then the moment's gone and we're all gone anyway. Like, the amount of times that I will just be sitting there and be like, ready whenever you are, Groot, ready whenever you are, Groot, ready whenever you are, Groot, and the moment just never comes. I have seen that so many times. It would be better just to get that 1 or 2 person ultimate, I promise you. So I wanted to give you a few examples of some efficient and smart plays. So it's stuff like taking the high ground instead of really diving into a crowd, because in situations like that, you can basically control the fight from afar if you're on certain characters like that. Like, obviously that's not going to work for every single character, but for me, if I'm on Moon Knight, I don't need to be up in the front. I can take a little ledge or something where I'm kind of close to my supports and helping them out. I don't need to be in the middle of it, like in the thick of it, like Helm's Deep, just like getting every single person like with my batons. Like, no. Taking that high ground is a great way to kind of control the fight, because you could also make callouts too, because you'll see so much more of the battlefield as well. Also, using 1 cooldown to secure a kill, like, that's awesome. Like you do not need to blow your entire kit just to get 1 elimination. But I mean, if you do, that's awesome too. Like, if you get that elimination, you can kind of recover from that. That's awesome. Also, I think the most efficient and non-flashy play you can ever make, which I think is the best way to play this game, it is to peel for your supports. I can't stress that enough. If you peel for your supports instead of chasing their backline, you will be saving fights more often, and you will be able to have your team be alive more often because of that, because you save your supports, and then in return they can heal you, and then you guys never fall. Like, it's a perfect trade. It's perfectly balanced. But so many times I see it where you have these players that are on your team or against you that are like, well, good luck, supports, you're on your own, and then they're going and diving the back line, and then they get 2-shot, and then like, oh, I didn't get heals. Well, maybe you should stick with your supports, little fella, and maybe you should do that instead, because then you'll have impact on your team instead of feeding every 2 seconds. So I wanted to come up with a few ways to help train efficiency over impulse, because it's very easy to be impulsive and get those little, ults and everything in fights where you kind of are like, I didn't need that, but whatever, it is what it is. So a few things that you could do is ask yourself mid-fight, what value am I getting from this move? Like, am I going to be helping the team? Am I going to be able to get this cooldown back before the enemy pushes in and I get it back? Stuff like that. Like, what is the value that I am getting from this move? Is this play actually helping my team, or is it just feeding my ego? Stuff like flanking from the side to be like, well, I'm a flanking Namor and I'm going to be able to get everybody. What if you don't though? Like, what if you don't? In my opinion, I've seen so many flanking Namors, and like, they're good at times, yeah, but if you're going against any kind of coordinated team, you're going to struggle. Like, you're going to 100% struggle. It is so much better to help peel for your supports on there, especially on Namor, especially if the enemies have dive. If you peel for your supports, stay next to your supports, and you keep them alive, and you take the dive off of them, that is so much better for everything. That I can't stress enough. I felt like I was picking on Spider-Man all the dives too much. I've seen a lot of Namors with the egos too, so I wanted to call them out too. A big thing that you could do as well that I've started doing more often that's really helped me is I've used replays and just match VODs and like VODs of my own gameplay to identify what I could have done for less to make more impact. Like, if I'm going around and like trying to flank on the sides, I'll ask myself, did I need to do this? I could have just stayed right next to my supports. I could have stayed next to my tank and just shot down main instead of going around getting like a huge flank and be like, oh, well, I tried, and then like nothing comes of it. So one thing that I'm really doing more often is I'm using my VODs, my own VODs, to make myself a better player, and asking myself, why am I doing this play? So that's a big thing to do as well. Also, focus on survival and consistency rather than like fragging out. If you go in and you're like trying to get like all these eliminations at once, and you're just like trying to hit, go pow 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 pow, all that stuff, maybe you're gonna get eliminated in 2 seconds because you're playing extremely risky. You're pushing your cooldowns basically to the limit, and you're in the middle of the enemy team. You don't need to do that. I'm telling you, like, yeah, I've said it before, this works for some people and they can do it successfully. that doesn't really work for me, and I'm assuming it probably doesn't work too well for you. I feel like it's the minority of players that it works for, so I kind of wanted to make a little bit of assumption on that. So that's just kind of what my opinion is on that. Also, a huge result of this is you're gonna win more matches if you do this. Your KD might not reflect it. Like, there are certain characters in the game where your KD might look pretty even, but knowing what you were doing the entire match it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Two characters that really come to mind for that is, I think Captain America is one of the best characters in the game, but the impact that he has on a match does not ever, in my opinion, get translated to the stat sheet, and his stats always look mid. But also, a person that I could also agree with that as well is Wolverine. I feel like is one of those characters where you will not get nearly as many eliminations as the other DPS on your team, but you know that you have been having serious impact. I mean, sometimes you can get Wolverines with like high eliminations, but I feel like as a kind of baseline, that's what my belief is. So basically, winning isn't really about doing more, it's about doing the right things at the right time. Efficiency is what wins ranks, scrims, and tournaments. That is why it is called efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. So guys, thank you so much. I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hit that like button for me, subscribe, all that stuff. You know the deal. I'm not going to talk your ears off any further. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.